Hi and welcome to this yoga for the feet class. We will start in a standing position. Want your feet about hip distance apart, and we'll start with a little toe game just to start to bring some awareness between the brain and the toes. So we'll start by just lifting all 10 toes off the floor and just holding it there, keeping the back nice and straight, arms down by the side. And then on the exhale, just place all 10 toes back down. And then on the next inhale, see if you can just lift the big toes off the floor. You might find one foot easier than the other, that's perfectly fine. And just holding it there. So then stretch out the toes a little bit, get some movement going. And then place that big toe back down. So this time we'll keep the big toe on the floor and we'll lift all 8 toes. So on the next inhale, lifting the 8 smaller toes off the floor, keeping that big toe down. Again, one foot might be easier than the other, just notice that. And then place all 8 toes back down. So this next one is a little bit more challenging, and I can do it sometimes, not always, and usually only one foot, so don't worry if you can't do it. It's more about just trying to bring that awareness to the toes. So this time we'll leave the big toes down and the pinky toes down, and we'll lift the 3 middle toes. So I can do it with one foot today, so just see how you are. And then place all 10 toes back down on the floor. And we'll just start to rock back and forth, keeping the feet grounded on the floor. We just want to move the body weight back and forth. Noticing how that feels in the body. And then we'll rock side to side. And then we'll try and make some circles. This might test your balance a little bit, trying to keep the whole sole of the foot and the toes on the floor as you do this. I have a bit of an ear infection, so my balance isn't that great at the moment, but... And changing direction. And then when you're ready, just coming back to center. So we'll take a little bit of a balancing pose now. You can use your hands if you like, maybe bring the hands on the hips, or if you like, it feels okay for the shoulders, you can use the arms, bring the arms up overhead, so whatever feels good for you. And on the inhale, we're just going to come up onto the balls of the feet. We can bring the arms up or keep them down. Come up nice and tall, holding it here, stretching through the bottoms of the feet, creating strength in the toes. And then exhale, just roll the feet back down. We'll come onto the heels of the feet, so lifting the front foot. You might lift the whole front foot, just leaving the heels on the floor. If that feels good, maybe hold onto a wall, or maybe just lifting the toes. We just want to send the weight back and get some movement in the front of the ankle. And then coming forward again, maybe bringing the arms up, come onto the toes, reaching through the spine, so really creating some length. And then exhale again, rolling down really slowly, lifting the toes, maybe lifting the balls of the feet. Not happening for me today. And then coming forward the last time, up onto the toes, reaching through the fingers. Really creating length here. And then exhale, slowly placing them back down. Bring the arms down by the side, lifting the toes. And then just placing the whole foot back down on the mat. From here, we're just going to take the left foot behind us, come onto the front of the foot. Just get a nice stretch through the front of the foot here. Maybe put your hands on your waist just for balance. And if you like, you can just gently rock back and forth, but this can be quite a strong pose, so just notice where you are today. And the movements are very, very small. And then coming onto the ball of the foot, and we'll just make some circles in one direction and then the opposite direction. Start to wake up the ankle. And we'll do the same on the opposite sides. This time right foot out behind us, coming onto the top of that foot, just stretching there. Maybe some really small movements. Maybe you can feel a stretch in the front of the toes as well. And then coming onto the ball of that foot, start to make some circles in one direction and the opposite direction. Right. So from here we'll make our way down onto the mat, and to get there we're going to curl up into a little ball. So just start to roll down, tuck the chin in towards the chest, let the arms just dangle, bending at the knees, coming all the way down to the floor, coming onto the balls of the feet. So this is another balancing pose, and we're just building strength in the feet. If you like, you can hug the hands around the legs and maybe drop the head in. Or if you prefer, you can keep the hands out in front, just balancing it here, tucking the chin in towards the chest. This is our ball of yarn pose, balancing pose, and really building strength in the feet, helping to build our focus as well for the rest of the day. Hold it here for 2 more deep breaths. And after the next exhale, we'll make our way down onto our bums, bringing our feet out in front. You might like to just shake the legs out a little bit here. Right, and then we'll bring our hands behind us just to support us here. Fingers can be pointing forwards. We're not going to put any weight in the arms, it's just really to support us in this pose. If you prefer and you want to work in staff pose and a nice straight back, then we will be here today, and you can keep the hands down by the side. But whichever option feels good for you, just go with that. And we'll start by just pointing the toes towards the edge of the mat, and then flexing them in towards the body. So we're just going to move with our breath, pointing the toes on the inhale, and exhale, just pointing them in or flexing them in towards the knees. So do this about 10 times, just moving with your breath in your own time, building mobility in the ankles and the toes. You might also feel the muscles and the legs engage. And when you've finished your 10 breaths, just bring the feet back up. You might like to just roll the wrists out for a little bit of a break if you like. And then coming back into our seated pose, whichever option you've taken. This time we'll draw some really big circles with the ankles. Just making the circles as big as what feels good for you. Maybe starting with small circles and making your way up to these bigger circles. Again, this is really great for mobility in the feet and the ankles and the toes. So if you can spread the toes as you make these big circles as well. And then switching directions. Noticing that maybe if one side feels slightly different to the other, it's perfectly normal. It's just good to notice these little things and see how they develop over time, or change over time. Right. And then come into centre, maybe shaking the wrists out if you like. And we'll be moving on to our shins now, or onto our knees. And we can start in a tabletop position here, so just stacking the shoulders over the wrists, hips over the knees, and we'll tuck the toes, and then just taking your hands, you want to make sure every toe is touching the mat, so usually the pinky toe just needs to be kind of spread out a little bit. So either staying here, this can be quite intense for some people, or you can start to walk the hands back and come up to an upright position. So with our toes pose, a really great stretch for the arches of the feet. And we will stay here for about a minute, so if it gets too much, feel free just to come out of it, maybe bring the weight forward, and then if you can, come back in, just see where you are. If you want a bit more of a stretch, then you can start to bring the hands behind you as well. Just be mindful of the lower back, so if this feels good for the lower back, maybe dropping the head back, keeping the chest open, so you're getting a bonus little stretch through the front body. And wherever you are, just see if you can bring your focus to the breath. Taking some nice deep breaths into the belly. Feeling the belly expand on the inhale and soften on the exhale. Trying to stay with it if you can. There's 2 more deep breaths here. And when you're ready after the next exhale, just coming forward, feel the blood rush back into the toes, maybe tapping them out on the floor. That one can be quite a strong one. You might like to just roll out the ankles, maybe in one direction, and the opposite direction. Maybe pointing and flexing them. And when your ankles feel all nice and refreshed from that stretch, we'll come this time onto the tops of our feet, and we'll just bring the weight back. So again, this is already quite intense for some people, so if that's the case, just work here today and work with bringing the tailbone down towards the heels, maybe holding it for a few breaths and then coming forward if you need to. Otherwise, you can stay here in this seated position, or if you'd like to take it further, you can start to walk the hands behind you, and maybe seeing whether you can lift the knees off the mat and holding it here. And we will be here for about a minute as well. So maybe moving in and out of 2 options, or whichever option you take, just see if you can hold it there for at least a few breaths. Again, breathing into the belly. Noticing the belly expand. And then noticing the belly soften on the exhale. Drawing our focus to the breath can really help us hold these more intense poses for a little longer. And wherever you are, we'll just be here for 3 more deep breaths. And after your next exhale, slowly just walking the hands back up. We'll make our way back into our tabletop position, placing the shoulders over the wrists. And we'll just send the right foot out behind us, come onto the ball of that right foot, and we'll just gently start to rock the weight back and forth. Again, noticing the blood flowing back into the toes, into the feet. You might like to take some circles on the ball of the foot in one direction and the other direction. And then bringing that leg in, we'll take it to the opposite side. So coming onto the ball of the left foot, just gently rocking back and forth. And then maybe taking circles in one direction and the other direction. And then bringing that foot back in. We'll end in a seated position, so just coming onto your bums, and we'll bring the soles of the feet together. If this isn't comfortable for you, then you can try sitting on maybe a pillow or a blanket just to lift the hips up, or you can play around with the position of the legs, maybe having them in further towards you or out further. That's perfectly fine. And if you can reach your feet, we're just going to start to open up the feet with our thumbs. And we'll start to massage the bottom of the feet, starting with the toes, working down each toe individually, really getting into the feet here. If you can't reach your feet, if this isn't comfortable for you, you can always come into a cross-leg position and just work one foot at a time. And then when you finish with one foot, just switching the crosses of the feet and working here. Or you can always have one leg out long and just bring the opposite foot on top and just work here. So whatever is good for you. We're getting a little bit of an opening in the hip in this stretch as well, and also stretching through the side of the ankle and on the top of the foot. So our feet often get quite neglected, they can get quite tight. You might experience lots of cramping in the feet. If you do a lot of running or walking, you could also get spurs develop on the feet. So just massaging the feet can help release some of that tension. And you can go as hard or soft as you want. It also helps to connect the neurons between the brain and the feet as well. So just bring in some awareness there. Make sure you do both feet. We'll just spend a couple of more minutes here. You can also massage around the ankles, maybe the tops of the feet. When your feet feel nice and pampered, we will come into a seated position, bring our hands onto our knees, and we'll just finish with a nice deep breath in through the nose, feeling the belly expand. And exhale, sigh out. And that brings us to the end of our practice today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope your feet really enjoyed it as well. And I thank you for practicing with me today.